It went from like, oh,
No worries. Hello, everyone. It is great to see you. Thank you for joining me today. For Restream, yep, we're trying something a little bit different today. We're going to try Tuesdays. Mondays was posing some challenges, so we're going to try Tuesdays. Same time, though, we're going to be coming live at 7 p.m. So thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to be welcoming Josh Young, mortgage agent extraordinaire, back to the show. We're going to have a quick conversation. We're going to have the first of probably many conversations about our home buyer incentive programs. Sorry, I'll get the hang of this language thing before we get rolling. Geesh, I'm just stumbling over my words. Anyhow, today we're going to have Josh and I. We're going to have our first discussion about home buyer incentive programs, where we're just going to basically talk about home buyer incentive programs that are available to us. We're not going to get too deep into the weeds. We're not going to get too deep into the requirements. We're just going to talk about today what sorts of opportunities there are out there to give potential home buyers a little bit of help, a little bit of a leg up so they can get into the market. And then we have plans to revisit some of these discussions and to get into some more specific issues like, what's available specifically for first-time home buyers, what's available specifically for self-employed individuals. We have another day planned for what is available specifically to newcomers to Canada. So today, like I say, we're going to just introduce the audience to home buyer incentive programs. We're going to give you the bird's eye view. And we'll get into the weeds a little later. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send us your questions. But when we get back from our little theme song, Josh will be with us, and then we'll get the conversation rolling. Thanks again for joining us. Josh, thanks again for joining me.
Hey, thank you once again for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on.
Getting a regular thing. And yes, there's some crazy weather going on. It was scorching hot today. Earlier this afternoon, my wife calls. The car, I guess, was just like, screw it, it's too hot. I'm not starting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty hot today because I did go out for a bit. And then I came back home and straight to the shower. I was actually dripping.
Yes, so, Annette came in from work today. She went, once we got the car going, it was, I don't know what happened. I turned the key and it ran.
Yeah.
Annette got home and she's like, I'm going in the pool, goodbye.
Yeah, because I heard like in BC, it's a heat wave over there. It's about 40 degrees. So
they were talking to someone on the radio today who said he went to his car and it was 43 degrees.
Wow.
That's stupid hot.
Wow. We've been fortunate because we've had warm weather since March. That's got to be the record. I don't think we've had any cold days since March.
Nothing terrible, no. But it's storming out there. I don't know if the audience can hear. Yeah, but I know my family's downstairs watching the ball game, and they're playing in Buffalo, and apparently it's bright and sunny in Buffalo, which is, a 20-minute drive from where I'm sitting. Anyhow, so today's topic of discussion, we're going to talk about buyer incentive programs. And effectively, right, so first of all, we should probably make it clear that we're going to focus on programs that are available right at the moment for Niagara residents. Now, one of the programs that we'll talk about is available basically across the country, in fact. But we'll also talk about a program that's specific to Niagara residents, with the caveat that chances are very good that regardless of the municipality that you live in, there's probably a similar program run by your regional government or your municipal government. So it's something to keep in mind. I think most of these programs, the regional programs at least, are structured similarly. So we will speak today about the Niagara region, but why don't you get us started, Josh, by telling us about the programs, the federal programs?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, let's talk about the federal programs. The Niagara one is a bit. It kind of ties into the government one, right? It's basically similar rules, but every municipality has their nuances to kind of help lower income families as well. So, but yeah, definitely just to get started. So obviously, it's called the first time home buyers incentive. So that kind of gives it to you. So you have to be, so basically to qualify for this, you have to be a first time home buyer. And so the way it works is the government stepped in because we've seen, record increases in the cost of homes are getting very expensive. So the government did decide to step in back in September of 2019 to help first-time home buyers out by offering them an additional 5% if you're purchasing a resale, or if you're doing a pre-build, then that's typically a 10% down payment, and the government will be matching that 5% for you as well. So the way it works is basically you have, as a first home buyer, you have to have the minimum 5% down payment, and then the government will match their 5% for you. Obviously, you have to be a Canadian resident, a permanent resident, Canadian citizen. I meant to say not Canadian resident. So Canadian citizen, permanent resident, and if you do have a work permit in Canada, you also do qualify for this plan as well. So just to kind of, so that's basically it is in a nutshell. It's just the government stepping in to help people who are having a hard time, saving that extra 5% that they might need, or for families who are looking to reduce their monthly payments. That's when the government steps in to add that additional 5% for you.
So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the federal program is not in the same way as program we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
Towards you still have to have that 5% saved down payment.
Yeah, so this is not basically, so this is where it kind of differs from the Niagara program, because the Niagara program is more subsidized housing, right, versus the federal program is basically just giving a helping hand to families who are struggling to come up with an additional 5% for a property that they need, or for example, let's say the monthly cost of the mortgage will be a bit high for the family because, families still got to save for RESPs. They've got to save for the RSPs as well. So the government came in and said, we're going to match that 5% for you in order for you to be able to afford your property.
Okay, so so what it's really doing is going to help you lower your monthly payments by making so you don't have to mortgage as much.
Exactly. So you don't have to mortgage as much. Yeah. So that's basically the plan in a nutshell. It's just basically, at the end of the day, obviously you need professional advice to determine if it's good for you, which I'm sure we'll come to in a moment, whether this plan is good for you or if it's something that you shouldn't take advantage of, just because when you actually do break down the math, on average, by adding that additional 5%, you're saving yourself about $100 to $200 a month, which for a regular family, that could be a lot that could be put back into something else other than their home.
Yeah. Now, are you aware? Do you know if there's any sort of limit on the value of the home?
So yes, there is a limit on the value. So typically, when you go to like a traditional lender as a first-time home buyer, you're usually qualified on 5 times your income. So for example, let's say you make $100,000 a year. Right off the bat, this is without any other information. that person who makes 100,000 can qualify for a $500,000 home. But under this program, the government actually reduces how much you can qualify for. So this is another disadvantage to the program if it's a program that you're kind of weighing if you take advantage of. So instead of the 5 times your income, the government wants you to qualify on 4 times your income. So once again, if you're making 100,000 a year, you can only go up to a $400,000 property, which, depending on the market that you're in, it might not be the end of the world for you. And in some markets that limits you a bit.
I think just because we've thrown some numbers around here, it's probably a good idea to at least put a little caveat on what we're talking about in terms of 5 times your income. The rule of thumb that I've been told is effectively if you have 0 debts,
yeah,
then people will generally, or let's say the base where they start in terms of mortgage approval is effectively you will qualify for $100,000 for every $20,000 worth of income.
Yes.
Which at $100,000, yes, that works out to $500,000, right? 5 times your income.
Yes.
So, well, yeah, and I guess that makes sense because 20 times 5 is 100.
Yeah, and so one of the things
so I want to make sure that, because I've said this number before and I've seen people go, oh. So we have but if you have a car loan, that's going to usually wipe out $100,000 of your qualification, right? If you have different, from that base of 100K for every 20, then you have to peel back based upon your existing commitments.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to the conversation we had last week where we talked about that's why it's good to talk to a professional before you go out home shopping, because yes, it's not just your income is a huge part of the qualification process, but it's just a part of the qualification process. So there's a lot of things that come into play. The property taxes on the property, if there's any condo fees, heating cost, if you have any loans as well, those will impact your qualification as well.
Right. We actually have it's a first for Restream. We have a question come through our stream here. Now, it's not necessarily a question that's completely on topic, but I'll let you. I'll get your opinion on this, Josh. And
okay.
I'll mention to Ryan. Ryan, thank you very much for your question. Ryan is a truck driver, and he owns his own truck. Currently, the truck is financed.
Okay.
So he holds the debt for the truck, and whenever he's been talking to his mortgage agent, who's an awesome mortgage agent, but the mortgage agent always runs up against this rather significant debt that he has on his truck, which is his business, right? So here, I'll show the question here. See how this works out. So Ryan is asking, says he's thinking that if he incorporated, then he may be able to transfer the debt of the transport truck to the corporation, and therefore his income, then he might be able to qualify personally for whatever mortgage. And of course, there's lots more numbers that would have
associated to that. Yeah.
Right? And it'd be a question of how much income he's then taking. But let me ask you this, because like I say, it's a little bit off topic, but does that sound like it might be
a viable option? It does sound like it's a viable option. Ryan, that's a great question. And it's not really off topic because we see that all the time. Truck loans, especially depending on where you are. Like I'm guessing Ryan is in the trade, so he definitely needs his truck for work, right?
Ryan is a truck driver,
yeah, exactly. So we see that a lot, and those truck loans, depending on the truck that you have, can run you up from $500 to $700 a month in payments, which is huge. That's pretty much a mortgage payment for some people. With the question, obviously, it's not one size fits all. You have to figure out what kind of business do you have. Are you self-employed? Are you in a partnership? Those are the kind of things that are really going to matter in terms of how you're incorporating that truck. Because at the end of the day, if you're in a partnership, there's different tax laws that do apply, or if you're self-employed, sole proprietorship, that's the word I was looking for. So that's where this question would actually be perfect for your accountant or a tax specialist to be able to figure out how can you separate your business from your personal, whether it's income or expenses, so that way it's not showing on the same balance sheet. So that would really be the biggest thing. Obviously, if you could move your truck over to the business side, then that kind of clears you of when you're going into apply for a mortgage on the personal side. But I'm not a tax professional. This is it's a business/tax question. So I would definitely recommend talking to your accountant or your tax specialist first to determine what kind of business do you own, what's the tax implications for moving the truck to your to the business side of things, and how that would impact your financial picture.
So Ryan is he's telling me what his monthly payment on this truck is. I'm not going to share that with the group, but
yeah,
it's hefty. Ryan, hats off to you if you can cover that every month. I know Ryan personally, so I'm hoping, you know.
Yeah. Okay. He's a sole
a little bit
proprietor.
casual, joking, and he is a sole proprietorship. Ryan, I'm going to thank you for your question. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you know that I will get in touch with you tomorrow. I will connect you actually with my trusted accountant. And that will be a question that might really be a good path to follow, but I'll help get you connected with my accountant, who is also, you know, he is familiar with personal corporations incorporating. They sort of have talked about myself getting on that path. I'm not personally there yet, but thank you very much for your question, and I'll definitely follow up with you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for that question.
There we go. Okay, so we were talking, we'll just get back on track there a little bit. We were talking about first-time homebuyer incentives. And yeah, so where we kind of left off was the federal program is one in which, you know, it's giving you help after you've already saved your down payment, and it's going to help.
Minimum down payment, yes.
It's going to help you in that more of the home is going to be purchased, right? So when you think about it, I mean, there's going to be, you know, rather than having to mortgage 95% of the purchase value, then perhaps you'd be able to mortgage 90%. And because that's a smaller mortgaged amount, then month to month, your payments will be less.
Exactly. So that's the way it works. Obviously, like I said, there is guidelines to it. It's as much as it's for first-time home buyers, it's not for every first-time home buyers. Obviously, they have to look at your household income as well. It can't be over 120,000 a year. Obviously, you have to have a good credit score as well. Typically, anywhere 700 and above. Some lenders might look at 680 as well too. So that's something that you can look at. Right. And just wanted to add to, before we kind of move on to the next topic, was with the first-time home buyers plan incentive, one of the major things that they also did as well, apart from the 5%, or if you're doing a pre-sale versus 5% on a pre-sale and 10% on a pre-build. One of the good things that people actually did like about the new changes that happened in September was that you as a first-time home buyer can withdraw from your RSP, so your registered savings plan, without being taxed, without any tax implications to you. Typically, before it was 12, you could withdraw up to $25,000 from your RSP, both spouses or both partners who are involved, as long as you are a first-time home buyer or the one spouse is a first-time home buyer, you could withdraw from the RSP. So they've actually up that to 35,000. So that's an additional 10,000, which does help families who have saved a lot in their RSPs as well.
Right.
And another big one too is for people who are going through a separation, divorce, marriage breakdowns. The government has actually made it that people who are going through that life situation can actually withdraw from their RSPs as well, and will be considered a first-time home buyer. Let's say, for example, a partner has to leave the home or sell the home, they can actually apply as a first-time home buyer under this plan. So it is good news. It is good news for different demographics of people who
Right.
might have been stranded, you know. So that's I felt that was that's a important piece of information.
So that actually speaks to one little nuance that I think, and I'm gonna correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
as far as I understand, some of these programs, that when they're geared towards first-time home buyers, that doesn't necessarily mean that both people, like if for example it's a couple making a purchase of the home, and for one side of the couple, it's their first-time home purchase, there are, in some circumstances, as far as I understand, you can leverage, or the partner for whom it's a first-time purchase can leverage a portion of the program, so that they're still gaining that benefit in what I think is a proportionate amount. So say if two people are buying a home together, so it's going to be an ownership of 50-50 split, then it might be possible for partner X for whom it's a first-time purchase to access a proportionate amount of that program. So disadvantaged, right?
Yeah.
By being connected with someone who's bought a home before, like in a circumstance like you're saying, where it might be a second family situation, or it might be a marriage breakup, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you know what? The RSP, it's all individual. So the government sees everybody as an individual. So every person has up to 35,000 that they can withdraw from the RSP. If you do have the money in there, obviously, then you can borrow up to that amount. Whether it's up to the couples to decide how much they want to split from that. And I always tell clients too, is it's good to have that conversation with your mortgage agent or your bank representative, because there is the misconception. We could probably do maybe a show on this to touch base later in terms of the difference between taking advantage of the first-time home buyers plan with the RSP versus just using your savings, like your savings on the side, because a lot of people misunderstand that concept and feel that it's something that they should do to take money out of the RSP. It's an option that the government gives you for people who do not have money saved elsewhere. So, because I had clients who had, lots of money in their tax-free savings account, but wanted to withdraw from their RSPs for the first-time home buyers plan. It's like, no, you still got to pay that money back in between 12 to 15 years. That's for people who don't have that money saved. Then you can go to your RSP or top up with your RSP for closing costs, things like that. So.
Yeah, I knew there were lots of rabbit holes to chase down. So, we were planning out this. We're like, okay, we're going to try not to get into the weeds.
Yes.
So that sounds a little weedy. You're right, and I think it would make a good show to focus on. Okay, using your RSP to purchase a home. It also sort of leads into a discussion about the Niagara home ownership program.
Yes.
Because, well, let's face it, not everyone has a nice, healthy RSP to dip into. And an RSP, I think for a lot of people, is a luxury. So we can change gears a little bit. The Niagara home ownership program is specific to the region. And the objective of the Niagara home ownership program is really to to empower middle to low income households to be able to get into the housing market. So it's a bit different from the program that we've talked about so far. the Niagara home ownership program, and this may be the same in other municipalities if they offer a home ownership incentive program, offers a 5% down. Well, they offer 5% up to a certain amount for a down payment towards a home, and the expectation in this case is that this is not a matching situation. So the Niagara Home Ownership Program, they will offer a down payment assistance of up to 5% with a maximum cap of $23,408.30. They throw the 30 cents in there. They do have a maximum cap.
It's all based on the math, I guess.
It really does. It is based on the math. Now, and when you do the math backwards, to figure out, okay, well, what is that 5% of? That also gives you a limitation that the program imposes. So the program is going to help you buy a home for a maximum value of, I'm just looking at my paperwork here to make sure I get the number, of $468,188. Now that number is based on, I'm not actually sure what that number is based on, but it's dictated by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. Again, checking the notes. So it sounds like the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, they dictate sort of a cap on the value of a home that the municipality can assist their residents in purchasing. And that's the number that's being designated for in the Niagara region. In the Niagara region, in order to access that program, you do have to be a resident of the Niagara region. You have to be a Canadian citizen, a landed immigrant, or have refugee claimant status. So you don't necessarily, I should correct myself, you don't necessarily have to be a full Canadian citizen, but you do have to have landed status or be a refugee claimant. You have to be a current resident of the Niagara region who has been renting for a minimum of 6 months. So I think this is actually one of the great things about this particular program, is it really is geared towards helping people make that transition from renting to buying.
Yes.
Now, that said, of course, the funds are limited. You do have to go through an application process. So your application is then vetted by a committee with the region. And once your application is approved, then you basically go into a pool that is effectively first come, first served. So if you are a prospective buyer and you have an approved application, they're not just writing you a check and say, here, go spend this. What they're saying is, okay, we are approving you. You can now go about your search. And so long as you are successful in your search and your bid, before the funds for the year have been depleted, then we will, the funds will be transferred at closing to the seller's lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's basically, obviously, the region also does have provision for affordable housing as well. So that's not stuff that they have a lot of specialists that can help you if you're somebody in that situation. I know a lot of new families to Canada on the refugee side really do take advantage of these programs because they're fully waiting to gain that Canadian experience in the workforce. They have great careers from where they're coming from, but they just don't have enough time to save that money and to build that credit. So this is a great way for the Niagara region to help those families. You have to, obviously, once again, there's qualifications whereby you can't be making more than $85,000 a year, and it's also a forgivable loan as well too. So as you own the property, they will reassess and to make sure that if you got your property and all of a sudden now you became a doctor and you're making 6 figures, that's something that you would have to repay back, but they will review it on a case by case basis
Right.
of who
Yes.
needs to repay that.
So that is something to make sure we make clear, right? One of the primary differences between the program that you're talking about and the program that I've just mentioned is that the Niagara Home Ownership Program is a loan. By default, they amortize the loan over 20 years. So by default, you're sort of paying it back over 20 years. But through this program, you own 100% of the property that you have purchased. Whereas yes. the program that Josh, you've been talking about, the government is effectively buying 5% of the property. And so someone who takes advantage of that program will only ever own 95% of the property. Subject to what? Like, is there any, and maybe this is a weedy discussion, but is there an option or a channel whereby you can buy back that 5% of the property?
I don't think there is a buyback option.
Okay.
I believe it's just more of it's not like because not because this is not like we said, it's not an equity stake in your property. It's not. This is just the government. No, it's not an equity stake program. This is just the government, the Niagara region helping. That's why it's a very, as much as it sounds, not, I don't want to use the word too good to be true. The qualification process is not. It's a very strict qualification process because.
Hold on, let's make sure we're clear which program we're talking about. I understand the Niagara program is a loan. Is a loan that you have to qualify for under some strict guidelines.
Yes. You do have to qualify for that.
The MHC program, however, is that not an equity stake in the?
That is an equity stake program, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I thought you meant when they had to repay back the money. So that's why I thought you meant the Niagara was. Yeah, okay. So the Niagara program is not an equity stake in your property. It's not. No. It's different from the federal one. That is a stake in your property. So that has to be paid back within 25 years or whenever you sell the house. And it has to be based on, so you have to pay back that 5% based on the fair market value at the time of sale or at the 25-year mark. Versus the Niagara one, they review it. They review your income quarterly and annually to make sure that you can still afford the property, and obviously if you need to pay back whatever that down payment was.
Okay.
So it's slightly different, but they kind of help one. So the federal program is more of helping first-time home buyers, the ability to reduce their monthly payments and get a bigger home, you might say, while the Niagara program is just helping young low-income families get into a property.
So I can almost anticipate this question though, and I'll just throw it out there to see if you're aware, as the stand-in mortgage expert, is it possible to take advantage of both simultaneously?
Ooh, no. I wouldn't think so, because if you are, I wouldn't think so, because if you've saved that 5%, then you don't really need the Niagara program. So that kind of disqualifies you from the Niagara program. Yeah, because Niagara program is for people who don't have a down payment, who have, there's various reasons as to why they need a home, but let's say you have a family of 7 kids. Let's say a new refugee or a newcomer to Canada has a family of 7 children.
Chances are you need a home that's worth a lot more than $468,000.
Exactly.
But I digress.
The likelihood of them renting is very the likelihood of them renting a 2-bedroom apartment that's not the best living conditions, right? And that's why the Niagara region is giving those kind of families an option to be able to buy a property, settle in it, and then as they build their careers and their income, they can slowly pay back that down payment. Or if they're in a situation whereby their income stays below that 85,000, household income stays below that 85,000, then it's just, then at that point you might not have to pay that back. But it's a case by case basis. And yeah.
Excellent. Well, Josh, I'm sorry I sprung that question on you.
Oh no, it's
I knew that'd be a big one, but I can almost hear people asking me.
No, it's definitely a good question. That's why, like every client situation is different, and we look at everything to make sure, are we providing you the best possible advice based on your situation?
Yeah.
So.
Well, Josh, I appreciate the information you've brought for us today. It's always a good chat. And I'm looking forward to getting into some of the specifics of the various different programs. I think it'll be really, really helpful. One of the things I'm always trying to do is to help people, learn about what it's going to take to bridge that gap between renting and buying. So this is, I think, one of the really important pieces to the puzzle to, getting across that gap.
Yeah, and I know we talk about first-time home buyers, and with the current state of the market, I know it's very easy to give up and lose hope, but there is numerous programs for first-time home buyers to take advantage of. That's why it's always good to talk to someone first before making a decision of staying out of the market, or it's always good to have those conversations, and from there we're able to help. But as long, it's one of those things whereby we want to make sure that people can get into homes, because home ownership, it's one of the biggest investments you're going to make in your life. It brings a lot of pride and joy to families, and we want to make sure that people can get into those homes and also build their wealth as well. So
yeah, it brings stability on a number of different levels.
Exactly.
So next week, refresh my memory, we have plans to talk about incentive programs, I believe, for new immigrants to Canada.
Yeah. So we'll be doing the new immigrants to Canada. Yeah, newcomers. Yes.
Talk about newcomers to Canada. Excellent. So I hope I'll thank you, Josh. I'll let you sign off for now. I hope everyone's going to join us next week. We will talk about incentive programs to help newcomers to Canada access the real estate market. And before I leave, well, a number of things before I leave. I want to invite everyone, if you're enjoying the information that we're sharing, please don't hesitate to hit that like button. Please make sure you subscribe. That'll really that'll help myself. Really make sure that you're in the know whenever where our episodes are going live. We're going to go live on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. We're going to try and keep that our new regular time. So again, hit that subscribe, pretty please. Hit that like button if you'd like the information that we've shared with you. I've shared with you over the last 11 episodes now of Restream. And before I go, I want to make sure that I remind everyone of, I'm going to get that out of my face, of the fundraiser that I've organized. It's coming up. We got about 10 days before we'll be gathering online for some fun, some trivia to support Gillian's Place. It's a fantastic cause. You will find the link to the registration and then the donation button in the description to this video. Thanks again for joining. Don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Ryan, for your questions. We'll see you again next week.